Hi, welcome to Marky Mark's Woodshop 101. I'm Amber.
And Marky Mark, and this is the Woodshop. So in this episode we're going to fabricate a fence for the Rikon Bandsaw. Getting back to our bandsaw fence, I glued this piece up yesterday so it'll fit in here and slide. Again, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with the fence. However, I do know that Amber she thinks I'm going to turn her nice piece of maple in here to a permanent fence. However, I have this board here, which is actually a runner off of a pallet. I think it might be oak, and that'll be sufficient. So I'm going to have to do a little processing on it. It needs to be joined, planed, and the idea is on the back part I'll have a piece attached to it some way, shape, or form where it'll catch, and I can use a toggle clamp that'll squeeze it in place. So that's kind of where I'm going. So let's process the board and run it through the planer. Things are going to get noisy. There we go. We've got two clean parallel sides. So next thing we want to do is run it over the joiner to ensure we have flat edges on the other side. We've got some checking at the end of our board. We just planed and joined. Not too much on this side. Thought I saw some. I don't see it now. But this side's pretty bad. And the board's longer than what we need anyway. The table's 16 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and whack it off at 20. Matter of fact, I think I'll just whack the checking off for right now. And we'll go from there once I get a better handle on the length I need. So we'll use our sliding cross-cut sled for this. Still have just a little bit of checking, which is okay. It's not hideous. And if the camera focuses eventually, there we go. So you can see the checking. That's just something we'll have to live with. And the other side also, there's a little bit, along with a little void there. So that might be the end I'll cut off when I go to trim it. And this did turn out to be white oak. So I'm going to set that up on the bandsaw and figure out what we got to do from there. So what's going to wind up happening is, as I said before, there'll be a piece attached to the other side that'll lock it against the table, and the toggle clamp I'll attach here, and when it's actuated in the right spot that I've yet to figure out, it'll squeeze it and hold it in place. That's the general idea. So I need to figure out, I think what I might do is dado at the other end. A spot for where that piece is going to go into. And I'm going to overhang that a little bit. So that's where I want to start my dado. Come out this direction, whatever board I find. See if I've got a little piece of oak or something hard that also has a little bit of length to it. And looking in the scrap bucket, I think we have something. Dig a little bit deeper. I don't have anything that really tickles my fancy, but I'm considering a piece of drawer here. It's oak plywood. It's long. We'll try it. I'll see what happens later with it. Found this little piece of oak plywood out of a drawer bottom that I'll use for the back part, and I cut a dado in the fence itself and slid it into it. So I just glued it up and I clamped it to a square, so it will be square when I put it on the bandsaw. So glue's got to dry. We'll be back tomorrow and unclamp it and a few inches do the next step. Fence. And I'll have to finish that by hand just because that's the way it is. There we go. So let's take everything over to the workbench and I can attach the toggle clamp to it there. First thing we're going to do is put it in the vise. And we're going to, actually it'll be like that, attach a toggle clamp to the end of it. So I'm going to use a center punch. And pre-drill the holes for the screws. So let's see what happens. I got some pretty stout screws and some smaller ones too. I guess the smaller ones would probably be okay. I can always put longer ones in later if they're insufficient. So with the toggle clamps screwed on, the only thing we need to do is give it a little adjustment. Couldn't find another wrench quickly, I just grabbed pliers, that's good enough. Just kind of tightening the nut here to lock her down. So, there we have it. So when we close the clamp, our fence is nice and snug. and it should be square, although that's not like 100% required with a bandsaw. But let's see where we're at of curiosity. It's off a little bit, but that's okay. You have to compensate for the bandsaw blade as you go, because sometimes it'll bend, usually inward. And in fact, this piece here is a fence, and you can see it's actually curved. And it might be that I'll affix that so it'll go in there too. That way I have the option to do so. That's actually more useful depending on what you're doing. I have some miter slots I can groove into the fence where we can affix that. That could be an accessory later on down the road. However, there's another part to this where we started making the fence. There'll be a link to that down below, part 1 as it were, and so we're good to go. We've got a fence again on the bandsaw, and I kind of prefer to cut with the fence on that side, kind of just the way the things work out here in the shop. And I'll give Amber back her old fasteners for this piece. We'll go ahead and attach it. It's just a matter of drilling some holes here in the fence, so that'll only take a second, and we'll have that option installed. Almost through. There we go. So, let's take it over to the bench now that we got our holes drilled and attach our sub fence. Well, this part's pretty easy. I found wing nuts. So, all we got to do is push the bolts through. These are carriage bolts, so I might give them a tap to stay in place. Let's see if I can find a suitable hammer to give them a tap. Well, there's something. And all we have to do is, actually, it was stupid of me, because they slide down here, then go through, and our other fasteners will attach on the back side of the fence. If the bolts are long enough, which it looks like they just barely are. That's a good thing. So let's get a washer on there. I don't know if I can get a lock washer also. Yep, that's good. And of course, if I don't want this, it'll pop off very easily with the wing nuts. So just get that up a little bit so it doesn't hit the work surface on the saw, and tighten down the wing nuts. And let's take you over here to the bandsaw again. And get this out of the way so you can see. And there we have it. Of course, that'll go on the other side thusly. Might have to adjust that toggle just a little bit more. It's a little hard to get into place, but there we have it for today. We'll be back tomorrow to finish some things up, make some more progress. So until then, check out our other stuff, subscribe. We've got a bunch of woodworking and gardening videos and a few other things sprinkled in there. Don't forget to hit that like button. And we'll see you again. Marky Mark extraordinaire!